Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness. We're going to get more into this in subsequent weeks, but I do want to give a bit of context. And you can see that amazing picture of me playing soccer. Um, so I wanted to give just a quick intro to mindfulness and why mindfulness is really the key to change for the better. I find it's a very important part of building and practicing emotional intelligence, which is one of the big, building blocks in Kirby method. So part of your homework this week will kick off a feel good journal, an energy journal, and understanding the context here is helpful. So put very simply, when we become aware of our thoughts, feelings and energy levels in this case, that's when the change can actually start to happen. So for example, a very concrete one is around healthy eating. There's been a lot of research done on awareness from a healthy eating perspective, and people are so much more likely to successfully change their eating habits for the better, like for example, eating more vegetables and less sugar, when they become aware of what they're actually eating. So whether through journaling or tracking in an app, whatever it might be. And there are a lot of different tools to use to become aware of different things. And we're going to explore those in this course. So for example, journaling, tracking of some sort. Again, if you're tracking your food in an app, meditation to become aware of thoughts, like an applied meditation or checking in with yourself to become aware of feelings and thoughts and how your body's physically feeling. The list goes on. And I find that most people use a combination of all these tools, and some may resonate some may resonate or work better for you than others. And I just really ask you just to be open. So there are a few key benefits to becoming aware, to really, practicing mindfulness. So one, in becoming aware, you actually remove yourself and are able to observe. So it's so much easier to remove judgment of yourself when you're being curious and observing, than when you're, in that trance of thought. And then what happens is once you're becoming aware and you're curious and you're observing your thoughts, you can not only more easily remove that judgment of your thoughts, but you can also bring a compassion to how you're feeling in those thoughts. And what happens is when we're able to become aware and observe and then bring that compassion, that's where the change happens. It's very interesting. So from mindfulness, from awareness, that's where the change comes. It's hard to change your job to be a more purposeful one for you if you don't understand what's not working about the current job and what you would actually change to make it more purposeful and fulfilling, right? That's a more tangible example. It's also really hard to change negative feelings and negative thoughts and judgment of yourself if you aren't aware of those negative thoughts. So this is where that mindfulness can just be so, so, so powerful. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of different ways that you can practice and build mindfulness. And here are just a couple examples. And I am just such a huge advocate of mindfulness. It's literally changed my life, and a lot of those around me. And so here are some examples of mindfulness tools you have the opportunity to try out in this workshop. So I'm going to walk through a couple of these, and what homework for this week is, I love for you to pick one or two of these mindfulness tools to just try out and see how it goes. So the first one is thought download. So this is actually straight from Brooke Castillo, an amazing life coach that I follow very closely. And what a thought download is you literally write or type whatever if you're writing in a journal, or if you're using Apple Notes or notes on your phone. I want you to write everything that's coming into your head, all of your thoughts. And I use this a lot when I notice that I'm feeling a certain way, if I'm anxious or stressed or sad, and I really want to explore that further and really, there's just such this power to getting the thoughts out of your head and onto paper or like onto your computer. It makes them easier to grasp and understand versus like floating around. Um, so I find that, oftentimes by exploring how you're feeling and sitting with it, so like by doing the thought download and these other mindfulness tools, instead of resisting that thought or that feeling or pushing away, you're actually able to move through that feeling or emotion faster. So I know it may seem very weird to say, but I've had a lot of practice with this and it really works. So like, the other day I was noticing that I feel really nervous. Like, why do I feel nervous? And I sat down, I think it was only for like, 5 or 10 minutes, and I just did a quick thought download uh, for that time, and realized that like I was, really trying to explore like why was I nervous? Like opening the door into like that room of nervousness. Like what does it look like? Like what's in there? And it really helped me like move through that emotion a lot faster, uh, and recognize like where I was at. Okay, secondly, meditation. So I am a huge advocate of meditation. I know it's a very hot word right now, trendy word, along with mindfulness. And there are a lot of different ways to meditate. So one way is really focusing on your breathing, and checking in with physical sensations you're feeling in your body. So encourage you to find a quiet space, just take a minute or two, like it doesn't have to be that long, and just kind of sit, and you can like just notice your breathing and focus on your breathing. Notice what thoughts come up, and then like let those thoughts go without judgment. So there are going to be a lot of thoughts that come up. I meditate very consistently, and there are always thoughts coming in. Like I'm not thoughtless, so that's not the goal. But the goal is to really be able to like notice when those thoughts are coming, and then like release them, and notice when you're in that trance of thinking, as Tara Brach would say, and when you're getting away from your breath, and then just gently, without judgment, focusing back on your breath. And there's some great resources around meditation. I find guided meditations are really helpful at first. There's a list of just like recommended resources, but in terms of if you are interested in exploring that aspect, Headspace, I think it's free for the first week or two, has some great guided meditations. Calm is a great free app, and they have like shorter meditations. I use an app called Dharma Seed that Tara Brach, she is amazing. And I listen to a lot of her guided meditations, which are a bit longer. So meditation is a wonderful mindfulness tool. Okay, journaling. So different forms of this that work for everyone. I actually journal most mornings on Apple Notes on my phone, and then it syncs my computer and iPad. So it's just like a wonderful syncing situation. And I actually usually journal in list or bullet form, instead of, I don't know, I find like writing full sentences sometimes can be intimidating. So I like to do the list or bullet form. And it could be about like how I'm feeling, like random thoughts that come up. Like it could be something simple as like, oh, like delicious, amazing meal like last night. I like love butternut squash with sage, or I love the fall. And then like get into like, oh, that's interesting. Like I'm feeling kind of anxious. Like why do I think I'm feeling anxious? Or oh, like I'm so excited for the weekend. Or it's just kind of like whatever comes to mind, like whatever you feel like, just write it down. And that can be a great mindfulness tool. Okay, so then we also have Scoreboard of Life, which we just walked through. So this is really about like checking in this like kind of higher level on like where you feel like you are in your different areas of life. Then we have the energy journal. So we'll get into this in a minute. So this is another homework for this week. But this is a great way to observe and keep track of which activities give you energy and then which ones drain it. And then I also wanted to call out here, we already talked about meditation, number 2, but for applied meditation, there is a bit of a difference on different types of meditation. And so I think about applied meditation as a way to really check in with yourself. So, if there's a question you want to ask yourself, or you're feeling indecisive about a decision you're trying to make, or you're not sure how you feel about something, there are some really great applied meditations you can do to get in touch with your intuition and understand how to move forward. And this is something that you probably won't immediately jump into. Like if you aren't meditating regularly right now, usually a good starting spot is like really focusing in on your breath, and kind of developing that muscle, or that skill set in doing so, and then you kind of work into applied meditations. Okay, so energy journal, so fun. So what's really cool about this is I asked myself, like, what if you could design a day where you finish the day with more energy than you started? Like, how cool of a concept is that? um, And recognizing that not every day is going to be like that, and that may be a longer term vision or plan, depending on like where you are now, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. But like seriously, how cool would that be if you could design a day that you have more often than not, where you finish the day with more energy than you started? And so that's really the premise behind the energy journal. So it's about recording your activities and your energy level associated with those activities, on a day-to-day basis. And we measure energy, levels on a -5 to 5 scale. So -5 is draining energy, so you end the activity with much less energy than you started. And then 5 is like bursting with energy, like you're just in the flow, as we call it, and just like totally there. Um, and I guess by flow, I mean, meaning energy and engagement is very high. Things just click and are just rolling. Like for me, it can happen like mid yoga class, or when I'm consulting one with a client to help them brainstorm, towards achieving those week's goals. For me, it can also be like doing these different webinars. I really find myself like getting into the flow. And I literally come out of these activities with more energy than I started, which is really cool. And I want to call out that this energy journal is a take on the Stanford D School version. I think they call it a feel good journal, and it's slightly different, but it's from the same premise. So it's really cool. So for me, like what's been interesting, and with other folks that I've worked with, like by understanding which activities like give me more energy versus deplete it, I can like gradually kind of craft my days to incorporate more feel good activities and less of the not so feel good activities. So just to walk through some examples here, like this is like a day in the life. Like I really want you to try to keep an energy journal. You don't have to write it down like every single day, but like maybe every other day. Walking through like what are different activities, and then like where's your energy level. So this is an example, like yoga class in the morning, I found like in flow state, like 5, amazing. Like a new client presentation, I put 2. Eating lunch at my desk while answering emails, -2. Writing up client call notes, 0. Putting project work plan together, 2. Giving webinar about health program, 4. Dinner catch up with a good friend, like flow, like 5. And answering texts on the train on the way home, like -1. So as you also start noticing like trends and do this, because we're going to do this energy journal, I want you to do it for at least 2 weeks, ideally 3. You can start getting a little bit more nuance in your activity. So then you can really start to understand what parts of the activity are giving you energy versus draining it. And then to go back, after 2 or 3 weeks, I really want you to kind of reflect, for 15 minutes or so, like what trends are you noticing? Like what are those activities that really give you energy? So concluding this first week. So the first week's homework, and you'll see this also listed on the website. So I want you to do the scoreboard of life reflection. So ranking those 4 pillars, those 4 areas of life, and how full you feel in each of those, and doing a little reflection around that. And there's a worksheet for you. And then secondly, I want you to do this energy journal. So over the next 2 to 3 weeks, like understanding which activities, like just outlining the activity, and then like your energy level when you're wrapping up or completing that activity. And then, I also see a typo here, so I'm going to change that. I want you to pick 1 or 2 mindfulness tools to try. So it could be a thought download for like 10 minutes, like try it out. You could try to meditate for 1 minute a day. You could journal. Pick 1 or 2 to try and kind of have an open mind and be curious, and just kind of notice what comes up. So that's your homework for this week. This is the conclusion of week 1. And then if you do have any questions or anything comes up or is unclear, or you want to talk about how it's going, definitely, shoot me an email, kirbymethod@gmail.com, and we can figure it out. So I hope everyone has a wonderful week. I'm so excited to kick this off, and looking forward to talking next week.